This is the Plain English Real Estate Show with your host, Rowena Patton, a show that focuses on the real estate market in terms you can easily understand. Call Rowena now. The number is 240-9962 or 1-800-570-9962. Now here's the English girl in the mountains, the agent that I would trust, Rowena Patton.
Good morning and welcome to the show. Ooh, I sound a little snuffly today, don't I? No. This is going to be our COVID show. No, not really. No. Not really. It's just allergies. Gosh, I feel like I say that every week. I think it's been about 6 months now. The pollen has been extremely high this week, so it gets me.
It's ragweed.
It's ragweed? Is it the ragweed that's out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pollinating.
Well, and if anybody's got any remedies, maybe we'll do a special prize for you. 828-240-9962. What are your cures for allergies? We're all ears. This is show number 604. And we will actually celebrate our 600th show at some point. Gosh, Saturday's the end of the week. Exactly. And real estate is nutty right now. What do you think, Patrick?
Oh, it's nutty.
You just had a closing yesterday.
I did. I've got a really happy client that's coming to Asheville. They've got a second home.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And I have a very excited seller. Actually, I think a lot of emotions, letting go of a property that's been there for a long time, a little retreat. And, but able to move on to the next chapter now. So today we're going to do a deep dive on inspections. Why? Ooh, it sounds really boring, doesn't it? Because inspection right now is the key thing that when you're buying a house will have your deal fall apart. Inspections right now are the key thing that as a seller will have your deal fall apart. And we very, very much recommend a pre-inspection. The vast majority of our sellers do a pre-inspection. So we're going to do a deep dive. What kind of things come up, even on newer homes? It doesn't matter whether your home's just been built, you'll be amazed. On average, we get over 30 items. It's more like 35 items. Most of them are nitpicky. Most of them are little things that you can check out. And I did get permission from one of my previous sellers to use their inspection report because all these things are always the same, like Patrick. No, I mean, not always, obviously, but I'd say 90% of the things that we're seeing on inspection reports, whether you're representing somebody as a buyer or I'm representing somebody as a seller, we're seeing similar things coming up, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, similar things. You find in the western North Carolina area a lot of basements and a lot of different kind of structures. So you definitely need to get an inspection.
Yeah. Well, do you mean that you find problems in basements?
Well, not necessarily just basements alone, but that's where I've run into moisture
problems, in your basement.
Moisture.
There are all kinds of things you can do for that, all kinds of depends things and all kinds of competing companies now, when you've got moisture in your basement. So a common one that we find is roof coverings. Right, all kinds of things on roof coverings. So this one said, for example, some of the roof shingles are damaged along the roof edge at the front. I mean, that's usually when some branches have fallen, maybe the roof's 10 years old, or something like that. And the inspector says things like, failure to repair may lead to a roof leak. So that's common language, right, Patrick? It looks a little bit scary.
It is scary, especially when you see a shingle that's disarray. Why is it like that?
Yeah. I feel like I've got some shingles that are in disarray, but that's a whole other story. If you know how to fix that, you can call in at 240-9962. That's not my shingles, that's the roof shingles. If you happen to be a roofer or know a roofer, you can give us a call and talk about the kind of roof issues that you see. And we'd love some, just rough estimates from you. Nobody's going to hold you to that. Everybody gets scared about giving pricing, I think, in case somebody holds them to it. But we all want to know how much. It's the first question we ask, whether we're going to get gasoline or whether we're going to the grocery store or whether we're putting a new roof on. We want to know what the rough price is because it's terrifying right now, with all the pricing that's going on. So another one is, and I'm literally going through an inspection report here one by one. So we've got number 1, roof coverings. Number 2, roof coverings. Roof covering is nearing the end of its life. Heavy granule loss is present. What do you think that means, Patrick?
It's just gotten really thin. The asphalt's not holding the sand, essentially.
Yeah, if you look at a roof tile, or most roof tiles, I mean, obviously some roofs are metal, you have all kinds of different roofs, but the most common one is asphalt shingle, and it's basically a piece of black tar that's got all pieces of little speckles in it. So that's what they're talking about, where they say, where does it say those are missing? Heavy granule, that's what they're talking about with the granules. Heavy granule loss is present. It also says tab spacing is wide. So what that means is the little tiles, you think of your brick subway tile on the wall, the spaces between it are wide. Do you think that's because they shrank or the granules came off? Or what do you think that is? We need a roofer to call in, don't we? 828-240-9962. Get yourself some business and tell us what on earth we're talking about on here. And tab spacing, there's another one. And the inspector says things on the... So here's the other thing that they do. I'm looking at pictures here right now. Obviously, you can't see these pictures because we're on the radio. So, obviously on the radio you can't see pictures, right? It's not rocket science, is it? And it's not scratch and sniff either, so we can't smell anything. But when I'm looking at these pictures, what they do is they zoom in on the very worst part of your roof. You've seen this, Patrick. What do you think to that?
Oh, goodness. The inspection report can also scare the heck out of you.
Yeah.
I mean, some things are going to happen in a home that over time you just need to repair and replace.
Right.
And knowing when to do that is key. Sometimes folks let it go over.
Yeah.
And in this market, you're running into a home, and if it's got a little bit of beat up roof, you're probably going to need to get an inspection just to find out what's going on with your roof. But to that end, the roofing materials vary. So you've got 3-tab, you've got lifelong 40-year-old
metal,
architectural shingles,
Yeah.
You've got metal. So there's all kinds of varieties. And
so you could choose your new roof. I think, the reason we're doing this is because any of you who've listened before know that our approach at All Star Powerhouse on the listing side is certified pre-owned homes. So it costs you a little bit of money up front. However, our fallout rate is less than 7%. The average rate, and I've taught this for years around the country. You can see more information at cpoexperts.com, cpoexperts.com. The reason being is the primary reason deals fall apart right now. So you're all excited, your house goes under contract, and then the inspection comes along, and people get very scared. When you do it up front, you get all scared. It's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea so many things were wrong with my roof. But it's things like 2 shingles at the side, which are fine. And when you show the buyer that up front, let's say Patrick's the buyer agent, and I say, hey, Patrick, here's our request list, or the overview of the inspection that we did, the pre-listing inspection that we did. And there's a couple of things here, and there's a couple of things that have been corrected or repaired, or we're offering this money to put them right. Or the seller perhaps bought it with a scratch door at the back, where the dog had scratched it from the previous owners, and they're not going to pay anything towards it. How does that change your buyer's approach to buying it, rather than having no idea and then 2 weeks in having paid for the inspection themselves and getting all excited and getting their loan in place and putting money out for that, essentially taking the house off the market, although we continue to show it. Not many people are going to go and show it, so it's inconvenienced the seller in that. And then they get the inspection and they're shocked. How does it change when I give you the inspection up front before you put the offer in? How do you think your buyers would respond to that?
Oh, they're impressed, and they're already prepared. So having that is a huge tool. Having a certified home is absolutely the way to list it for your sellers in this market.
Everybody goes in eyes wide open, and when your buyers know what's there, and also you're, as an experienced agent, being able to guide them through this. Like, look, the gutter needs cleaning, and they said they'll do it. And of course they can get their own inspection if they want to. About 50% of the time they don't, especially if it's a fresh inspection, which in this market, which is still, when we look in the higher price ranges or homes that are further out, they're sitting longer now. But still, when you're downtown somewhere or you've got a fully remodeled home and you're, ship shape and shiny, they're going pretty fast still. So the inspection that we've done, the pre-listing inspection that we've done, is probably 3 days old at that point where we get it in. So call in if you've got any questions on the inspections, 240-9962. If you're calling in from Mars, 800-570-9962. So here we've got another one, roof coverings. Some of the nail heads on the roof shingles along the ridge caps. So if you think of the ridge, that's the peak of the roof. There are 2 nails that are sticking out a little bit. So it probably doesn't, it's so funny. I got on the phone the other day going through an inspection with somebody, and it said that a nail was sticking out of a deck board. And while I was on the phone with him, I could hear hammering, and he said, there you go, the nail's in. Oh, so that's what I mean with inspections. So many of these things are little things that you can take care of so that you have a super clean inspection, and at least you can tell your buyers what are going on. And by the way, you don't have to fix anything. You can say, no, I'm 70. I'm not getting up on the roof or fixing anything. Tough luck. I bought the house like this, and it's value price to take it into account. However, we do disclose everything. So Patrick now would sit down with your buyers and say, look, this house is $400,000. It could easily be $450,000 because I, Patrick, have done the comparables. So you're getting built-in equity, and the fixes will probably cost you about $5,000.
Yeah, $45,000 in your pocket.
So how do you think how do they respond to that? Because we've been through this before.
Well, they're absolutely, happy to hear this information.
So here's the next one. Number 5, roof drainage systems. Inspectors' comments. The gutter guards are clogged at several areas. How often have you seen that?
Almost every time.
Yeah, and this has got gutter guards on the gutter. So you'll think, I put my guards on and spent all that money. And then twigs and leaves and stuff get on top. But guess what? We've got a company that you can use for about $200. They'll wash out all your gutters, and they'll even pressure wash a small deck as well for that. So you can get it all done at once. That's not a big deal. But it looks terrible, and it's causing water issues on your home. That's not good. But such an easy thing. It can also cause the gutters to go loose because you've got all that weight sitting on them. Cameron is calling in, and we're going to be talking about how many of our sellers are offering to buy down your interest rates. So you'd have to call me about our specific listings for that, which of course we will. But some of our sellers are indeed offering to buy down your interest rates. So you can get your interest rates as last year. So here's Cameron Ball. Good morning, Cameron. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing wonderful. How are you doing, Rowena?
Good. Thank you so much for calling in when you're out of town.
You bet.
Are you somewhere fun?
Well, it's different, so it's fun. Just in Raleigh, not too far off.
Yeah, it is fun, isn't it? Just being out of town sometimes, even when you're working. So thanks for joining us on your Saturday morning there.
Absolutely.
So I'd made a request to Cameron, and really all around the fact that some of our sellers were saying, what else can we do at this point? Because we want to get a little bit more aggressive with our listings. Some of the listings that are further out and are higher priced are sitting a little bit longer now. So Cameron was talking about allowing the sellers to buy down the interest rate for the buyers. So we're going to put that offer out there. So let's say, for example, so $10,000 is a massive amount of money to a buyer, right? Because you're already saving every little bit of money that you've got. Houses here have over doubled in the average price since 2007. So instead of looking at $186,000, that was the average price when I started in real estate in 2007 here. It's now $425. Let me repeat that, 186 to 425. What do you think has happened to salaries 2007 to 2022? How much do we think they've gone up?
Not enough to compensate for that.
Let's say they've gone up 10%, so you get 10% more spending power. I think the average household income is something like $60,000. So, and obviously a lot of people earn less than that, or, you've got someone staying at home with the kids and one person out working. So now we've gone from 60 to buy that 186 to $66,000 to buy 425. I mean, without even doing the math on the affordability on that. Could 66,000 buy you a $425,000 house, Cameron?
It'd be real tough.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you just know off the top of your head. So that was tough. Well, could $60,000 buy you a $186,000 home?
Yes.
And that's the same home. It's a 3-2, garage on the main if you're lucky. No views.
Right.
It's the same home. So $60,000 on 186. I mean, we should actually do the real math on this, and we'll do a show on it because it is quite interesting, isn't it? $60,000, 186,000. What are you looking at very roughly, Cameron? And I can work it out on one of our calculators if I need to.
66,000 on 186.
Yeah. So if I look at a house let me just look for one that is 186. Max price 186,000. And I'm searching on our website, which is mountainhomehunt.com. And that's interesting. There aren't any homes that are 166. Isn't that funny? Let's do a $200,000 home. That's close enough for government work. Sort by the most expensive. Let's see if I can get it close to what it was when I started out in real estate. Here we go. 185,000. This is a manufactured home. It is a 2-2, 185,000. This was our median price that would buy you a 3-2 brick home, most likely remodeled when I started out in real estate. That same house now costs you about $400,000. So if we're looking at what that costs us per month, that would be, so this is 100, let me make it 186. Let's make it accurate to where it was. 186,000. What's the average down payment that you're seeing? 10%?
Let's say 10%.
Okay. This is going to be a shocker as well. So 186, 10% is 18,600. I'm scribbling down on paper here. 30-year fixed. We've got an interest rate. Well, probably 6% at that point. Somewhere around
depending
that.
On credit. Yeah, depending on credit.
Yeah, and this was 2007. We'll just use 6.3%, right? So okay, that's going to be an estimated monthly payment of $1,236. This is where real estate is really going, guys. This is really interesting. And then we're going to put the home price in. Let's just do 400, and that will get Hayward and Henderson County as well. What would today's interest rate be for you, Cameron, on 400,000, 10% down payment? Now, there's the other difference as well. That's very scary. Just roughly, what would the interest rate do you think to be with half decent credit? 400,000.
Let's say I don't know, 5.9 maybe.
5.9. Okay. So we are looking at approximately, and this is with principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. This is everything. And this is with 10% down. So I'm comparing apples with apples. Are you ready for this? So that same home is going to cost you $2,335 instead of $1,236. It's almost double. So if you have $60,000, right? Let's do that for a second. Have you got your calculator open?
Yep.
Anyone? 60.
I do not.
So I think our salary has gone up to $66,000, right? So $66,000, if you're following my math here, divided by 12, that brings you $5,500 a month. And what are we taking off for taxes? 25%?
Sounds right.
75. Where's your percentage button? There it is. So you're at 41.25. So out of your, did I do that right? 41.25. Let's do that again. So 5,500. I'm going to get all the CPAs calling in a minute. Times 75%, right? Because I'm taking, 41.25 is our take home. So out of that 41.25, I am taking 2,335. This is on the average home right now. That leaves you with $1,790 in your pocket. It's kind of scary, isn't it? Especially if you're feeding a family. And then we're looking at 2007. You were spending, okay, so that's 60,000. So that is 6,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's 5,000 a month.
5,000.
5,000. Remember, we did an increase on salaries of 10%, and I would argue that most people haven't actually gone up 10%. However, we're trying to be generous. Well, not generous. Good Lord. Okay, so 3750 minus 1236, which is the mortgage payment. That leaves you, this is crazy, guys, 3624 in your pocket to spend, as opposed to today, 1790. So are you listening, sellers? This is what house prices have done. Never mind whether you're looking at interest rates. And it's so funny because I have a lot, I speak to a lot of sellers right now who bought their house at 186 and now selling it at 425, obviously, because prices have gone up that much. And they're like, well, yeah, no, we really want the most money. And I'm trying to explain to them that the affordability is so different than when they bought their house, regardless of how old they are. Obviously for some people, they've got much better jobs in that time. Maybe they were younger and, their careers have gone up, but we're talking a broad brush here. So instead of having, that's crazy, instead of having $1,324, over $3,000 in your pocket, now you've got $1,700 in your pocket. It's unbelievable. Again, it's double. You've got double the amount in your pocket in 2007 on the average house as to what you had now. That just blew my mind. I don't know I've done that math before. That's what we call a blinding glimpse of the obvious, or a BGO. Isn't that shocking, Cameron?
Absolutely.
Blew my mind. And obviously, if your salary is different, all those numbers change. So the other big difference here is the amount you have to put down to get rid of PMI, which is 20%. You can always refinance down the road should the interest rates go down or anything else. So let's look at what we're putting down there. So 10% of 400 is $40,000. Now, you do have programs, Cameron, correct, where you don't have to put anything down or a small amount?
Correct.
Okay, so it's $40,000 you'd have to put down. Remember when it used to be $186,000? That's $18,600. $18,600 is under half. So we've halved the amount back in 2007, average house, if you're just tuning in. So the amount that you've got in your pocket now are all on the same basis. We did a 10% increase for salaries over that period of time. After paying taxes, insurance, everything else, and putting 10% down, the amount you've got in your pocket every week is about halved to 2022. So the amount you've got left over is about halved. Same thing with the down payment. The down payment is over doubled now. You've got to put double the down payment down. And the interest rates are probably about the same as they were, which 6 is around what we call, nobody thinks it's healthy, but 6 to 7 is kind of normal. Mm-hmm. It's like the foreclosure rate. That's never zero. It's like the unemployment rate. That's never zero. It's just that when it goes above or below a certain line, then we start getting nervous, correct?
Correct.
So look at that affordability. These are all the same people trying to afford these houses. So now you've got to go up, to get a bigger house for maybe you've had more children or something. You've got to spend more money, have a lot less left in your pocket, and maybe have a much better job. I mean, it's really hard to look at that. That's why we're talking to our sellers about doing buy downs on the interest rates. So, and Cameron, we were throwing back and forward about $10,000 before, correct?
Right.
And you said, well, obviously it depends on today's interest rate, which I totally get. So the point is, as a seller, for between $5,000 that you put into the pot, and listen, guys, when you do this is all attached to the pre-inspection. This is a big strategy for you. We can come out, talk to you about this. Give us a call, 828-333-4483. That's our direct line. We have people on call all the time taking your calls so we can set up a listing appointment for you. That's not to list, it's to come out and talk to you about how you can get through all of this. So when you're able to, you're often giving, if you don't do an inspection and Patrick as a buyer agent takes out his buyers, you do the inspection, they're going to ask you for $5,000 or $10,000, right, Patrick?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So now we're doing the pre-inspection, taking care of things for either yourself, like my seller with a hammer knocking in the nail, and we're going to go through some more of the things in the rest of the show. You're knocking in that nail, or you're putting some cork, a common one, he and I in our house, the bath hits the tile, the side of the bath hits the tile, and there's a gap where they put, most builders, or when people do tile, they put grout against where, you shouldn't put grout, you should put cork. It's flexible and it sticks to the side of the bathtub. So you just get one of those cork guns for $12. You've got your line in there. Most of it's very minor. If you don't want to do it yourself, you can hire a handy person as a seller before you go into contract. Now, if Patrick brings in the buyer and he says, okay, we're going to do the inspection, and I have the very unusual seller, because it is very unusual, that doesn't do the inspection on our listings, and they haven't done it, and they find all those things, you need to use a licensed contractor. They cost a lot more money, right? And Patrick's working for his buyers. So Patrick's going to, be advising them to do the work themselves and ask for money instead, most likely. Is that right, Patrick? Or you tell me what you do.
Oh, it just depends on what the situation is, what they tell me, what their comfortability is with, most people will tell you, hey, listen, I'm a handyman. I can fix anything.
Right.
And then you've got folks that don't do anything.
And they want it all tickety-boo when they move in.
They want it right.
And now the market's shifting a little bit. Buyers have more power.
Yeah.
Nobody's really hearing this yet, but please hear it, because we are in that mode. Houses over 400,000 in Buncombe, Hayward, and Henderson. The line is going directly upwards. What does that mean? A lot more listings are coming on the market.
That's right. And
now,
if you have a unique property, being able to buy down that rate for someone, if you've got a property that's maybe just a little challenging to get to, or it's got a lot of steps or something, this might encourage a buyer that needs the space. Hey, listen, let's look at this house.
Exactly. So especially when we've done the inspection. Now, if it really were my seller that hadn't done the inspection, if it really were Patrick, at that point it's called dual agency. I never work with buyers myself, very, very seldom. On listings I do not work with buyers myself, because I just don't believe in it. Most agents do, because they want all the commission, but it goes out to anybody on my team if a buyer comes directly to me. So that actually wouldn't happen. But Patrick obviously is working with a lot of other listings as well. There are thousands of listings out there, and on any of those that would be the case. Patrick most likely would be encouraging them to get money and do the work themselves to their own satisfaction, rather than getting the seller to do it. And Patrick would be helping with, we help you with all of this. We find the right contractors. I have sellers right now who we did the inspection. We went through all of it. I sent a contractor in he went the next day. He called. He said, I think I can do it for this. I looked up some links to new things on Home Depot and Lowe's, and I sent him the links. So we had a rough idea of the pricing, and he went there the next day, and it's all being taken care of, because it's worth spending that $200 or $300 getting all the little stuff done.
Yeah, the little stuff is.
Yeah.
Why have it complicating the deal?
That's right. And again, if you don't want to do it as a seller, that's fine. We just disclose it to the buyer, and then you don't get under contract. Why is that? Oh, well, that's not good. You want to get under contract. What you don't want to do is get under contract and then fall out of contract 4 weeks later. You've lost time. Interest rates are going up. This market situation, I would put a lot of money on. It's going to get worse before it gets better. 7 to 11 years, economic cycle, what goes up must come down. So it's going to get worse for a long time before it gets better, for about 3.5 to 5.5 years, statistically.
Right.
Because 7.5 to 11, 7 to 11, half of that is 3.5 to 5.5, right? So that's the trough. That's the bottom.
Right.
So we can look forward, everyone, for 3.5 to 5.5 years, getting worse. Sorry, that's just what it is. For sellers. Now, for buyers, that's actually good news.
Right.
Because that will start putting downward pressure on pricing, which if you're a buyer right now and you're looking at searches coming out, you're noticing that.
Yeah, and I was talking to a couple of realtors in other markets as well, and they're starting to see more listings come on.
Yeah.
And these are busy markets.
Yeah, absolutely. I coach teams all around the country. One of them is in Atlanta, and they're seeing exactly the same thing. In fact, they're saying the phones just stopped ringing. Everybody's despondent at this point.
Well, I do have to say our buyers have slowed down for sure.
Yep.
Our internet traffic and
it's
our
not
call-ins.
just us. It's across the board, and I can show you the numbers on that.
Oh, I know.
Those Buncombe County, Hayward, and Henderson, not our listings, all of the listings. The 400 and up are going up diagonally on there.
You know what's another good thing about this area, and if you put your home up for sale right now, is because we don't have product.
Right. Yeah, we don't have many homes out there.
We've got a lot less product than a year ago.
Absolutely. So, Cameron, tell us a little bit more about the buy down. Is it straightforward for the seller to do?
Well, absolutely. And I guess this really goes to the fact, the mathematical piece that you've been speaking on is always at the heart of what we do. But in a sales process, you have to keep in mind the emotion that goes into it and allowing a buyer to get out of their own way to purchase the product that you're selling. And the one thing that is on, I would say, look, there's always going to be people buying. There's always going to be people that are never going to buy. We're trying to influence those people that are on the fence. Maybe it's just a luxury for them, or maybe it's a little bit of a want to, need to scenario. How do we get them off the fence? So we dangle a shiny object in front of them, which is actually buying their rate down to get it more comfortable, because that is the rate is part of the equation. It's not even the most important part, but it's what's on everybody's mind, on the tip of their tongue. So
Absolutely.
As a seller, if you can, I hate to say the word manipulate because that has a negative connotation, but if you can dress that object up in a different way and present it to the buyers as, hey, we're going to help you out, get you a much lower interest rate on our dime, that may be what pulls people off the fence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the good thing for you right now, it may be the good thing, is, do you know the Bee Gees song, It's Just Emotion, that's taken me over? We're going to have you sing it to it.
Karaoke
Songs. I don't know if that one comes off the top of my mind.
Maybe Patrick will sing it for us.
No.
Yeah. You can just say you don't know the song.
I don't know the song. Randy can sing it.
It's called...
Randy's hunting it right now.
I think it's called... I don't know what... I think it's just Emotions. I think it's called something. It's called Emotion, actually.
You see it in that list there?
And it's
No.
Bee Gees. But yeah, it's okay because Patrick's going to sing it for us. But you're right. Sometimes it's getting us out of our own way, because people have just looked at these interest rates rising so quickly. I think almost everybody thinks that that's part of the issue. We should have a year ago, a year ago last January, we should have started to take action and just creep them up 1/8 of a point, 1/4 of a point. What do you think about that, Cameron? Let's solve the economy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. We had those discussions back then on this show about how are they staying as low as they are for this long, and it just kind of baffled us. But speaking to anyone that's considering buying that may be listening, please understand, number one, the rates historically are not terrible right now. And think about it this way. You buy a home right now, whatever interest rate you're able to get, let's say 5.75, maybe let's just round number, let's say 6%, and the rates continue to go up, you're going to pat yourself on the back for making a very shrewd decision.
Oh, yeah.
Great job.
And
Now,
should they go down? Big deal, right?
And listen, let's not be foolish and think that rates are going back down to 2.5%, 3% again. I don't know that we'll ever see that again. But let's say your now 6% rate goes to 4.75 or 5%, and we can get you out of PMI or whatever your situation may be. It's a great time to refinance, lock it in then. You date the rate, you marry the home. Let that sink in. You marry the home that you love, you date the rate, and when the rate gets better, you switch the rate.
You marry the home that you love.
And date
And
the
date
rate.
Date the rate. I love it. You don't go past first base with the rate, is what you're saying.
Hey, well, that's a whole other show. I don't know if that's Randy's show or not. But.
So, Cameron,
Yes.
how much of a percentage can they buy down?
Much as they want,
Well,
right? Depending on the money.
Yeah, I mean, I see on rate sheets. I mean, there's a practical application here. You can still buy the rate down into the low 4s, high 3s for like 50 or 60 grand, but obviously that would not pass any type of mathematical test. So, usually when I'm showing someone what their rate would be, there is a par rate. That means you're not paying anything for the rate, and the lender is not giving you any credit for it. That's just a dead even rate. Then you can inch the interest rate lower if you're willing to pay what most people think or hear the word discount point. A discount would be a full point, but you can do it in very small increments. It could be a quarter of a point, 45 basis points, a half point. And the more you're willing to pay, in this case, what Roe is talking about is the seller actually contributing to this part in a whatever amount that may be. Instead of at that 6% we were talking about, maybe the seller can throw in there where you qualify for 5.5%. And that may save you $150, $170, $180, maybe $200 a month, depending on the numbers. And over time, what a great benefit that is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they do the 3-2-1 buy downs as well, I believe, where the interest rate just goes, up over the years. You buy it down in year 1 and then year 2, which can be really good as well. So on a $400,000 mortgage, which is about our average, a little higher than that, 30-year fully amortized mortgage at an interest rate of 5%. The buyer decides they want to lower their interest rate for the first 3 years with the 3-2-1 buy down. The seller can do this as well and put the money in escrow to do it. In this scenario, the buyer would pay an interest rate of about 2% the first year, 3% the second year, 4% the third year. We would have to pay the full 5% from year 4 to 30. So the annual savings in year 1 is over $8,000. The annual savings in year 2 is about $5,500. Savings in year 3 is nearly $3,000, and year 4 to 30, no savings. So that's what a buy down can look like as well. And then obviously there are costs associated with that. It could be $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And you were saying, Cameron, that it doesn't make mathematical sense. However, there are a lot of sellers right now that have got, for thinking about a buyer spending $20,000 to buy down their own mortgage sounds absolutely crazy. However, if you've got somebody who's has their home at $800,000 and you know that is not value priced at all, then a $20,000 buy down may not be extreme at all. It's a much lower percentage of their overall takings. And many of these sellers have made a ton of money, obviously, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So to use some of that to buy down the buyer's interest rate may not be a bad idea. I'm thinking of the Dave Ramsey approach, really, so Dave Ramsey with the snowball effect, what he believes is that, and I'm a big believer in this because a lot of this is mindset. So he believes that if you've got 3 credit cards, you don't pay down the one with the highest interest rate first. What? You pay down the smallest amount first. Because the motivation that you get and the feeling of pride that you get, you're probably in your 40s or 50s and you've had 3 credit cards that have had balances on them for 25 years, right? So, and they just sit there and you're like, I'm going to pay them off.
Feels good to see a zero on there.
It feels so good. So you've got one with a balance of $500. You pay that off. And then the money that you were putting to that every month, that's how it's a snowball. You put towards your next highest one because of the momentum of it. So it may be a whole mindset thing here. Does it make sense on the absolute bottom line for a buyer? Probably not to do discount points, although it can feel better, right? It can feel better. Can you get gifts to do discount points, Cameron? Like if your buyers' parents want to pay for the discount points, can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So anything you're paying to buy the rate down is just wrapped into closing costs, and then a gift can be any type of down payment or closing costs can be covered with a gift. So that's the long answer, but the short answer is yes.
And the other interesting thing is that if the interest rate is less, you're forking out less money to put down, correct, as the buyer?
If the interest rate is less, you're forking out less money. Say that again?
To put down. So your 10% that you're putting down, or your 5% or your 1% or whatever it is. And also I just realized this, blinding glimpse of the obvious again, affordability factor, you can afford more house. Mm-hmm. So any of our sellers that are offering this buy down, and by the way, builders do this all the time.
Oh, yes.
We don't have that many big builders here because we're in the mountains. We've talked about this before. We don't have acres and acres and acres where they can build 300 or 3,000 cookie cutter homes like they do in Charlotte and Raleigh and other places because we're in the mountains, and we go up and down and it's easier to build on big flat pieces of land. So a lot of builders do that. So maybe that's why it's not as commonly used here. But the affordability, Cameron, if you're now looking at a house at 5.5% instead of 6%, as we just went through the figures earlier on, where that amount, the amount that you've got left in your pocket in 2007 was double, the affordability of that home has really crept up. We're allowing people to buy the home that wouldn't otherwise have qualified. Can you put that in more sense for me?
Well,
Did that make sense?
Well, you've got a payment person, and that's most people.
Yeah.
They're relying on the payment, and they're relying on that $66,000 job.
Yeah. You mean the payment that they're making every month?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
and if Cameron's doing a pre-approval for them, he's going to look at that, at what the interest rate is and how much money they're making and what loans they have.
Yeah.
Right. And a few other things, but those are the major ones.
Yeah,
so
maybe they went from a $1,600 payment to $1,800.
Exactly.
And that's a whole nother neighborhood that's,
Exactly.
might offer a swimming pool.
So now a listing that we have where our sellers are offering this, they might not have been able to afford that home, and now they can because the seller is offering that, discount points on the mortgage or the buy down, the interest rate. At the end of the day, it just means your interest rate's less. And it might cost you $10,000 or even $15,000 as a seller. But given that if your house has been sitting, which a lot of your houses have been sitting, if they're $700,000 and you're a little bit further out, a lot of you have been sitting for 3 months now.
Yeah.
And we're going down, guys. So this is all paper money we're talking about. You think you're worth 700, 1 million, 1.1 million, 1.5 million. That's on paper. You haven't sold it. It's been sitting for 6 months. Last time around, we went down 30%. Let's say we go down 10%. 10% of $1 million is what? $100,000. So if you've got $100,000, you're going to go down most likely. Heck, buy down the interest rate for $20,000. Doesn't that make sense?
It's a pretty good strategy to me.
I think so. What do you think, Cameron? You usually do it from the buyer side, so. I think we've blown up Cameron's brain at this point. It's like, I do it for the buyers, but no, he will absolutely work with the sellers as well. It's just all done at closing. It's not terribly complicated. You as a seller, depending on the whole situation, throws in some money to make their interest rate less. So if you're in a bind right now and trying to sell, I promise you, we have all the strategies for you, including the fact that we are senior transition specialists. What does that mean? There are many, many, many baby boomers out there right now that are moving into retirement homes. Retirement homes come in all shapes and sizes, as many of us know. At this point, you've got, homes where you go in and it's not assisted living. So you're generally renting a place. Sometimes you can buy a place. Most often you're renting it. Sometimes you can sort of buy it, and when you pass away, your heirs get 80% of the money. They do all kinds of sort of complex deals on these things, and many of you have gone to see many of the different retirement communities to see where you want to live. There are thousands of them all over the country. Sometimes you want to retire to Florida, so you're going into a retirement community there, or to somewhere else, wherever it is, to be back by the grandkids in Connecticut or wherever it is. And of course, there are many of them here because so many people are flocking to North Carolina or returning home to North Carolina. Very often you've got homes that you're going in and renting now, or perhaps you're having, both of your parents are going in, or you and your spouse is going in, and one of you needs more help. Perhaps you've got a little Alzheimer's going on or some disabilities. So now, as the caregiver, it gives you a lot more assistance. And if you look at the statistics, many of the caregivers who are, sprightly. Let's go back to the age of people that are going into retirement care. Some are in the 60s, some are in the 70s, some are in their 80s. When those people got married, again, I'm broad brushing here, many of the women were a lot younger than the men, 10 years, 20 years younger. Frankly, I think that's nuts because we as women live longer than men, but maybe we got it that way, so we could just run off with all your retirement money and everything else that you've had when you pass, and it makes it a little easier for us.
Find you a pool boy.
Find a pool boy, yeah. Maybe that's what it's all about. It was actually designed that way. So I'm only kidding you guys, you know that. Trying to make a little fun here. It's all a stage of life. We're all in different stages of life. So, you're now going in, and one thing to note there is that so often ladies are left behind, and the man passes on. So when the ladies are the caregivers earlier on, often the male, because they're 15 or 20 years older, is going to be the one that needs more help. Not always, but often the man is the one that needs the assistance. Well, the caregiving before you go into a retirement home, and we're going to do a whole show on this, the caregiving often shortens the life of the woman. They have heart attacks sooner because of the stress. This is all statistically proven. It's kind of scary. So if you're a caregiver out there busting your tush, look into these opportunities, because this is the thing that worries me right now. And, again, you've all heard this many times. I am not money driven. I'm not. I could give you all kinds of examples of this and you'd go, she's lost her mind. I'm just not. I'm theoretically driven. All my personality assessments show that. And what worries me is there are seniors out there who are thinking about going into a retirement home. No, they're just putting it off because it's kind of sad leaving your home. And I think when you're older and you can't, people cling onto their driver's license even though they shouldn't be driving. I could tell you some funny stories about that as well, because you feel like you're giving up your independence. So a lot of people cling on to their homes for a bit too long. Remember, 7 to 11 year cycle. I don't want you to miss that window. I'm dealing with a number of couples right now who are looking at retirement homes, and sometimes you can't do anything about it because you've been on a list for years and one hasn't come up. Just like finding a home, you may have to broaden your horizons a little bit. Maybe you don't get that perfect one. You've been offered one and you didn't want ground floor, or it's a bit dark or whatever it is. Maybe it'd be a good time to get it right now and then put yourself on a list to move again. I know that sounds awful, especially if you're older, but it might be worth paying a moving company $2,000 or get your kids in to move everything up to, the third floor or wherever you want to be, or down to the down floor when one comes available, because you could miss out on hundreds of thousands of dollars on your home. It's just math, guys. So if your home, the last two ones I went to see, one is $500, the other one is $600, right? And these are fairly modest houses. So our $400,000 home, if we went down even 10%, that's $40,000. You see what I mean? So you may as well get out now. Now, if you're going to be in there 7 to 11 years, but if you're 80, most people say to me, I feel like I'm doing that retirement show now. So I say, listen, if you don't want to get out now and you can't find something, and this is the conversations I had this week, if you can't find something, I totally get it. Hold on to your home for 7 to 11 years. And two reactions, both were exactly the same. Ha 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 ha, I'll be dead by then. I mean, really, one gentleman who I love dearly, I helped him back in 2017 sell the house and buy a house, 2007, sell the house and buy a house, is now selling the house with me and having that. I'm not going to mention names or anything because I don't want to embarrass you. He's about to have his 90th birthday, and he's very sprightly, and he laughed at me when I said that. He said, I'll be dead by then. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're a spring chicken, to this man who's having his 90th, but I want to get them out now as quickly as possible and get them into that place, even if they rent, quite frankly, for a year or two or 6 months while their retirement place becomes available. And it's all money, right? So here's the thing. And money isn't important. It's your opportunity in your life. And I care about you. And that's why I'm saying this. 10% is $40,000. Yep. If you're going to lose $40,000, that you can pay rent for 6 months. You can surround yourself with all the people who can move everything for you. So
Go to Cherokee.
Oh my gosh, go on a round the world cruise for 4 months. Whatever you want to do, because it's your opportunity. And I hadn't thought about that. I mean, you were joking, but you could go on the round the world cruise.
Oh, absolutely.
Now you're gambling, but heck, if you're 80 years old or 90 years old, it might be time to gamble.
And it might be fun.
Because on our deathbeds, you say, I wish I'd done that. Most people don't say, I wish I hadn't done that.
Right.
A lot of people, instead of moving into the retirement home, move on to a cruise ship.
Oh, really?
It's cheaper.
Are you serious?
It's cheaper. It's proven.
It's proven.
People retire, they just keep going round on a cruise ship?
That's it.
Oh my gosh, I love this. And we're suggesting just while you're waiting for your retirement home. I mean, how much fun would that be? Especially as most of you have a caregiver, right? And that caregiver is freaking exhausted at this point. Can I say freaking?
Yes.
freaking, say I'd said it. And, young'uns out there think, oh, seniors don't know the things that we do. They never took drugs. They never got pregnant before marriage. They don't take risks.
They just hit it better.
Oh my gosh!
We didn't have the internet.
Right, right.
Social.
Right. So as we get older, we realize that everything that we thought as a kid, like, these old farts don't know anything about life, that we know a lot about life, and most of us still feel like we're 30, right?
Exactly.
So,
Unfortunately, I feel 18 sometimes.
But me too.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
Try to talk
27
myself out
maybe.
of that, yeah.
But yeah, we still feel like we're in our 20s or 30s. We don't feel like we're in our 50s is the point, or 60s. Or...
Thank you.
Sorry, Randy. You're a very young 60, though.
Thank you.
And I know you act like a 20-year-old, so meaning you're good fun, not that you're smoking doobies or anything. Not that you ever did that, or any seniors ever did that, of course, because,
Ever.
So the point is, get out of your house now and maximize the money. If we go down 20%, which is still over 10% less than last time, 20% on their $400,000 home, $80,000. 20% on, what I say the other one was, about 600, would be $120,000. I wonder how long that would take you around on a cruise ship.
I don't know.
Or renting a home.
Get a new car.
Get a new car.
Go to
Nice
Cherokee
cash.
and have a cruise.
Please don't go to Cherokee. You'll gamble it and lose it. But however, go on a cruise. The money will still be gone, but at least you'll be having a good time. And that poor caretaker that's been taking care of you can have a little freedom. You can go and eat at, 20 different places, or all these places that they have to go eat. Or you can just go to the south of France and live there, or the south of Spain or something for a month. Go enjoy yourself. And at which point your retirement home will probably be ready. It's time to gamble, I think. I'm a very conservative person, and I think it's time to gamble because you're going to lose a bunch of money. And we'll help you through it. We know how to do that. That's why we were talking about inspections today. It's very important to get your inspection if you're doing that, because if we're going to sell your house, we're running out of time. That window is closing. You're going to get less and less money as time goes on, and it's going to take longer and longer to sell. I can sell your home for you, and then you can rent it back. We'll say to the people who are buying it, they need another 90 days. However, if you're going on the cruise, you don't even need that, right? What do you think, Patrick? What would be your closing argument on getting inspections today, whether you're senior or any seller out there?
Oh, you go ahead and get your certified professional inspection and have your home ready to have it sold, and put that $80,000 in your pocket.
Right. And when you see that home where you're taking your buyer to and it's been inspected, don't you feel so much better for your clients?
Well, you feel better all the way around. Your seller is, they're on top of it. They're wanting to disclose everything that's ever happened to the house.
Yeah, this is how real estate should be done.
Yeah, you feel honest in the transaction.
Right. It's like dating somebody on the internet and they say, I don't smoke, and you meet them and they smoke. Like, just tell people what's going on in your house. You don't know either, It's like, I'm not going to make any more of those analogies because we're almost out of time. It's been great hanging out with you all today. Thank you so much. We didn't even get to trivia. It's such a fun-packed show with inspections and moving into retirement homes and how to buy interest rates down. Thank you, Patrick, so much for being here, as always. I love hanging out with you on a Saturday. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Cameron. Bye, everybody.
See you next week on the radio.
This has been the Plain English Real Estate Show with Rowena Patton. Visit Rowena and post your questions at radioasheville.com or call her at 828-210-1648.